And it will be shared on Sheffield Chamber's YouTube channel and various other platforms, social media channels across the South Yorkshire Chamber network. If you haven't already done so, please mute your microphones just to alleviate any interference. And there will be some time following the presentation to ask questions. So on to today's webinar. I'm delighted to welcome our keynote speaker, Philip Webb, who's the Managing Director of Investors in Community, which is a digital platform that enables businesses and individuals to donate, volunteer and gift to the charities and community initiatives that matter to them. CSR, ethical business practices, sustainability, corporate responsibility, whatever you want to call it, has never been more important as customers look to engage with those who take CSR seriously. Properly done, a CSR strategy can drive productivity, profit, enhance your brand, increase sales, attract the best talent, deliver staff engagement and retention, promote your business and its values at every turn, and make your business more sustainable. So to find out more about how CSR can transform your business, it gives me great pleasure to introduce Phil Webb to tell us a little more. Thanks, Phil.
Thank you very much, Sam, and thank you for the introduction as well. Good morning, everybody. I'm Philip Webb, Managing Director of Investors in Community. As Sam had said, we're a digital platform covering the whole of the UK, and is well versed in bringing together businesses, individuals, with charities and community groups. So let's just start talking about what CSR actually is. And Sam's mentioned a few of the alternative words. It's good business, it's responsible business, it's community-facing business, it's all sorts of different words. If you have ever given anything to any charity or any community group, you will have enacted something in the sphere of what we call CSR. CSR is a business term. It's aimed at businesses who want to actually connect with their communities and actually make other people's lives a little bit better. But let me just take you back a few months, because a few months ago, if you recall, it seems a long time ago and only yesterday to some, that we were in lockdown. And in lockdown, we found some quite incredible things happening. People were helping people like we'd never seen before. The COVID-19 pandemic was what I call a great leveler. It was indiscriminatory in the way it affected people. So whether you were the managing director of a very large PLC, whether you were an administrator, a sales function, a factory worker, anybody in society, we were temporarily and quite amazingly all equal, because it affected us all in exactly the same way. Doesn't matter how much money you have, what car you drive, or what business you run, everybody for a while was equal. And it was quite an amazing thing to observe. And it's all down to what we call personal values. Personal values were reawakened in the scope of the lockdown, and people realized that actually people do matter. And I think the word "there really is a society" was actually uttered by some government ministers. So we end up with a values-based society response to the COVID pandemic. And that really awakened some feelings that I think we've all had in the past, but probably been suppressed by business pressures, by the way we drive our society. And so coming out of the pandemic, those feelings, those values will not simply disappear. We hope they will continue to weave their way into our everyday lives, personal and business. So if you take the values-based response of a business right now, those businesses who espouse strong and clear values are more likely to succeed than those who do not. And we can pick off the brands that do those sorts of things. People like Innocent Drinks, for example, have a very strong brand theory, and people follow the brand, the story behind the business. And CSR is a way of telling the story, a way of espousing our values, of demonstrating the sort of people we are. If you take millennials, for example, statistically, I think the last one I read was 82% of millennials, by the way, that's people who are under 40 now, are actually making decisions. And they will look at a product or a service and they'll look for the business behind it, and no longer looking for the cheapest products. They're looking for a service delivered by a company who cares. And I'm not just talking about who cares by putting out nice messages. I'm talking about people who genuinely can demonstrate that they care about their audience and care about their environment and care about their communities. And for those companies that do that successfully, they will attract a greater number of customers over time for those who do not. Now, CSR used to be, in business terms at least, the twig on the tree, the little afterthought that comes after the net profit is calculated every year. And we think, okay, we've got a bit of extra, let's give away a few £1,000s to a charity. And that little afterthought became, well, which charity should we support? And strangely enough, they look around for the big brands, the ones that they would recognize very easily. And unfortunately, the statistics go something like this, that about 85% of all donations in the UK are given to the top 100 charities. That's appalling. That's the very big ones. I'm not saying it's appalling from the point of view of course they deserve the donations, but what about everybody else? There are about 167,000 charities in the UK alone. There's about 500,000 community groups, and they don't get a look in. But why don't they get a look in? Because they don't know how, because they actually lack the resources to sustainably connect to businesses. Within a 3-mile radius of where you are sat this morning, there will be 100 or so charities and community groups who need help. And you haven't a clue who they are. You don't know how to find them. You don't know what they want. Perhaps rather than espousing it to one very large scientifically based charity that covers the whole of the UK and beyond. So local community giving is an aspiration that we all have and very often lack the ability to actually do. So there was a problem to be solved. If we look at CSR in the context of bringing it back off the twig of the branch back to the mainstream and make espousing our values, a la CSR, part of what we do, part of what we do, which is of we can engage our staff more effectively, because our staff like the fact that our business genuinely wants to help others. And who wouldn't want to be a part of that? We can also see the sales branch coming off here where customers say, you know what, we like the fact that you link with your community, you are a good business, we want you as part of our supply chain. We saw this in the GDPR times when GDPR was first being introduced, and everybody's waving these banners around saying that the information commissioners would fine those businesses who were found to be falling foul of GDPR. And in fact, they didn't fine an awful lot of businesses. The pressure to be GDPR compliant did not come from the amorphous information commissioners. It came from our supply chains. It came from our customers saying, are you GDPR compliant? Because if you're not, we might not be able to deal with you. And that same storyline is now repeating with CSR, as more and more supply chains are looking at their suppliers and indeed their customers and saying, well, how are you fixed? What do you do for your community? Because we want to associate ourselves, because that's our CSR story, in not just us, but also our suppliers. And it's becoming now part of a movement, if you wish. A bit like GDPR was a movement to comply, it is a movement to get involved. And so we look at CSR and say, well, okay, myth number one, that costs me money. It costs me money, it costs me time and money. If I send my staff out to volunteer, they're out of my workplace and therefore not being productive for my business, or I've given some money away, therefore CSR is a cost. Not true. CSR, when properly deployed, is actually an investment. I'm alluded at the beginning of this to some of the benefits of that. So volunteering on site for a local charity or community group or good cause can give your staff an elevated sense of purpose. That purpose then translates back into the workplace that leads to increased productivity. And ultimately, if you wanted to connect the dots, to increase profitability. So there is a direct causal link between empowering your staff to volunteer and their productivity and profitability of the business. Talk a little bit about how giving money away is not actually a cost, because when you give money away, you're buying an outcome. And it's really important you understand this. It sounds very commercial, and in some ways it is, but it's really, really important that when you give money to a charity or a community group, you're buying an outcome. That outcome is usually a good news story. That good news story gets put up into social media, for example, or in a press release, for example. And those are read by your supply chain and your customers and your staff. And this has this whole marketing positive effect back to the business. So when you put a good news story out there, your eyes will rest on the good news story far sooner than it will rest on the fact that John and Sally have joined the sales team, or we just won a large order. People aren't so interested in that anymore. They're more interested in, what have you done for this local charity? That's nice. We like that. Therefore, you are a good business. And the perception will be supporting doing business with you in the future. So CSR is an investment. It's an investment in your brand reputation. It's an investment in your marketing stories. It's an investment in your people development, engagement, retention, and attraction. So this becomes the tree trunk, not the twig anymore, of your business. And as we recover out of this COVID pandemic and we all get back to our offices the way we're trying to, we're going to be faced with a choice. You go back to the way that it was, where you're trying to run the business to maximize the profit, to squeeze every little drop out of everybody in order to benefit the organization, or do you take a more strategic investment approach? Say, look, we're going to adopt a CSR-led strategy that does carry on that amazing work done at the start of the lockdown, weave it into our business, house our positive values, and actually really connect with our marketplaces. Back in 2010, from the recovery from the last recession, I wrote a piece on what we call the reset economy. And I argued that the people that came out of that had hunkered down and kept themselves as lean and mean as possible, coming back out into the marketplace, trying to connect with those same customers with the same offer, was not going to work, because the world had moved on. The customers now wanted slightly different things, not necessarily different products, but they wanted different relationships. Today is no different. People want better relationships going forward because of the experience of the last months. So in addressing the CSR to become part of your tree trunk of the business, you're actually allowing your business to connect in more sustainable ways with your customers, with your staff, with your other stakeholders, than if you decided to go the traditional or old route. So CSR is an investment, and I think that's very clear for most people who are involved in analysing these things, that is absolutely true. There is an investment, there is a return. Now, for your charities in the audience today, your trick is to actually define the return you are giving to the businesses who are supporting you. And that's a strange way of looking at things, because traditionally, prior to COVID, you might have said, well, no, businesses support us by giving to us, whether it be volunteers or gifts or money. Why do we have to demonstrate anything back? Because that's the return that's going to support a sustainable relationship with those businesses going forwards. It's a little bit like tipping a knot's head. Charity has a responsibility to define the return the business is going to get. What is the outcome they're buying? What's the story they're buying when they engage with you, and actually they provide that support to you? So every support action has a story. Every story has a return to the business, and every return to the business has an impact in a positive sense. So CSR, values-based, very much around people. It engages with a choice of local charities and community groups. That allows you to contextualize your business as a values-driven, sincere, genuine, connected business. Now, Investors in Community as a platform, just to come back to that, gives you the ability to, well, let's take the two halves, shall we? The charities on the one hand. Everybody else charges charities for transactional CSR. If you raise money through those platforms, you know who they are. They charge you a transaction fee, which is 3 times bigger than their cost. They make profit on every single transaction. They charge you a monthly fee to be on the platform. They take money away from the gift aid. In other words, they're extracting cash all the time from that charitable transaction back to a private sector company. And we fundamentally thought that was wrong. So at Investors in Community, we charge the charities nothing. It is absolutely free to join forever. You are free to launch as many small little projects in the local areas, defining what it is, volunteering, a bit of gifting, a bit of cash donations, whatever it is, as often as you wish. So the dream ticket for charities is absolutely free. Those people giving, the individuals, again, free to join and free to give. You take a business, we ask for an annual subscription. Why? Because we think that's fair, that they're investing in the platform that provides all of the reporting, all the management tools, all the tracking, and of course, all the outcome reports and the impact reports that they take as the return on CSR investment. And they pay a nominal, very small fee every single year to be part of the platform. We have the likes of Costa Coffee, Legal & General, Balfour Beatty. We have the 3 chambers present here today, of course. And we have lots of other companies who are joining us on a day-to-day basis. And they recognize the fact that measuring CSR is quite important, because if you're going to put out stories about CSR, they need to be true. Now, I'm not suggesting that those companies who collect information on spreadsheets all over their business once a flood to basically report to a sales tendering opportunity, for example. I'm not suggesting they're wrong, but it's a little bit like the fisherman's tale. 6 months after the event, the fish you caught at 9 o'clock in the morning was that big, and by the time it got to 4 o'clock and 3 people later, it was that big. And so accurate reporting of the CSR impact is really, really important. It's called verification. And verification of your CSR data and the giving you gave, was it received? The gift you gave, was that taken care of? The money you raised, was that received by the charity? Where this platform can verify that, gives businesses a really sincere ability to actually measure, report and audit on the work they're doing. And that's really important. If you're using this as a basis for a marketing story, or you want to become accredited in CSR, there's a company called CSR Accreditation, you will need verified data. We're not quite at the point where government is asking for reporting on CSR, but I don't think we're a million miles away. And companies of a certain size will be invited to make that part of their annual report to demonstrate to their shareholders that they have a stakeholder inclusion in their local communities. Now, because of the IIC platform, Investors in Community platform, all the charities and all the projects are demonstrable. You're able to make choices. And I speak to very large corporates and they say, oh yes, we give away all this money to charities. And I say, what happens to the money? We just give it away. And I said, well, no, what's the impact? We don't know. And so the charitable projects on our platform give you the ability to A, find a local charity that you want to support, as in one within a 20, 30 mile radius, or even a 1 mile radius if you wish. Find a local charity to support, and also then to gain the impact statement, what actually happens statement, back from our platform, with a message to you on the platform. So essentially you have that closing of the loop, that's circle closing. You've offered and provided support, you've given the support, it's verified by the platform, the impact statement is given, and you push it into your social media, your marketing, your sales tenders, your internal newsletters as the outcome of what you're doing. So that's how the platform works. In the middle of this, for every act of giving, you actually get something called community credits. Now, this is a first ever method of unifying different ways of giving. So what are they? Well, cash donations, clearly, fundraising, different, volunteering, skilled volunteering, and gifting of any item or service. 5 ways to give. And this platform is the only platform you'll find that unifies those 5 ways and awards community credits for every act of support to a community-based organization. So that's what we have. It's a very, very robust platform. It's written in IBM blockchain, which means it can go massive and scalable very, very quickly indeed. We intend to do this internationally next year, but right now we're focused in the UK. And we're inviting charities to join us. It's free. We're inviting community groups to join us. It's free. We're inviting individuals to join us. Again, it's free. And of course, we're inviting businesses to join us because their act of joining and providing, a very nominal sum of money to actually subscribe to the platform makes it possible to be free for everybody else. So if you believe that the principle of making it free to charitable organizations is correct, businesses, please join us because we need your support to be able to make that true. And so businesses are able to join very easily. They can connect all their staff. So all their staff have an individual profile and they can all get involved. They can all achieve their purpose through the Investors in Community site. The growing number of platform projects and the growing number of charitable organizations and community groups will be matched with quite a rapidly growing number of businesses and all of their staff in the next few months ahead. So I'm going to invite you to take part, and that's my call to action from today. Get involved, make your business the best it can be, embrace CSR as a return on investment statement. And if you want help with strategy, call us and we'll give you some help. If you want help with identifying how you actually get yourself involved on the platform, again, we're here to help. So we're able to enable your business to maximize the CSR impact, to drive the values of your business, to drive your commercial success, make you sustainable in the post-COVID era. I'm going to say enough now, Sam, and open the floor to any questions, if that's all right.
Yeah, that's fine. Thanks, Phil. We've got some questions I'll come back to in a second, but as Phil said, please do post questions in the chat box if you've got any. I just wanted to come back to a couple of things that you said, Phil. So effectively, Investors in Community partners up charities with businesses. Does it need to be a specific project or specific fundraising activity for a charity to join IIC for, or can it be ongoing support, ongoing partnership?
Yes, there's 2 ways of giving to a charity. If you're giving money, there is a direct donate button on your profile. So all you need to do is go on, log on, create your profile, which is a simple logo, a little bit about yourself to describe what you are and what your aims are and objectives are. Your profile will automatically have a direct donate button. You can copy the URL of that, stick it in any hyperlink you wish, and have donate buttons on your website that goes straight through to your donation on the actual profile itself. Don't forget, we deduct nothing. So there's no charges involved. So you can lose nothing by having a direct donate button pushed through the platform. And of course, anybody that gives to you gets community credits. That's the thank you, that's their recognition. And you can launch as many projects as you wish. As one project closes, you can simply clone it and start all over again. It's not a problem. But as often as you clone a project and start again, you put a little impact statement, which takes you about 2 minutes. And that's the thank you to the donor. And it's important that that cycling of projects occurs, and you keep them small, you get them closed, you get the tick in the box, community credits get awarded, impact statements get written. It's that sustainable relationship. The great news is for small charities, of course, is this is free. This is your marketing. This is your ability to put half a dozen projects on our platform, all asking for small different things and actually getting traction. And we'll obviously use our social media power to amplify what you do, and where possible, we'll make personal introductions for you as well. So this is actually your marketing machine, one place, volunteers, gifts, money, all in one spot.
And it allows businesses to support numerous charities and numerous projects at any one time as well. Yeah.
Interesting, because when you take yourself away from the big brands and say, well, what else is out there? And you start looking, there are some incredible charities just on our doorstep. And it's worth any business taking a fresh look at saying, rather than having a one charity for the year award, let's actually look at spreading it around a little bit. Let's look at spreading the love, and let's look at connecting with things that our own people are involved with. And don't forget, when the staff member has their own profile, they can take that home at weekends and use it for the support they give to charities out of hours. And believe me, whether you think it or not, that's huge, because a lot of people volunteer out of hours and you don't even know about it, but they do a lot of work, and that same profile can be used for them, just for actually the work they do out of hours as well. So they get a staff benefit. But businesses have choice, they have community credits, they have management and audit and reporting tools.
Stuart, I'll come back to your question in a second. Just want to go back. Colin posted one a bit earlier on. Colin says, representing a charity, what's the best route to approaching industry to support them? Should it be generalised or with a specific project in hand?
Well, in our experience, we find specific projects will gain quite rapid traction as opposed to generally going up in hand saying we need some financial support. If you actually contextualise that and say we need support in order to provide this number of shelters for homeless people, this amount of meals for people who can't afford, this amount of support in these different areas, by actually giving a proper story, as in a project on our platform, that story will probably gain more traction than the general, we need your support. I'm not going to tell you why. So it's obviously get the story straight, get the project launched, describe what it is you're looking for, keep it small and contextualized to make sure it's possible to complete it quite quickly, get the tick, get the impact statement, and close that loop. And you'll be surprised how many businesses think that was a great experience, let's do it again. And that's how you build a sustainable commercial relationship, basically with no costs attached to the charity whatsoever.
So there's no costs attached to charities. Stuart's just asked if you wouldn't mind clarifying the costs for business.
Yes, of course.
Is it the same cost for large businesses, small businesses? Just clarify.
So we have a cut-off, and basically I'll describe it now. The number of people that the business employs, we have two pricing models. One's an annual model, one's a monthly, so you can pay monthly if you wish. So it's £1 per month per staff member. That's less than a cup of coffee by far. Or it's £10 a year if you pay in advance for the full 12 months. That goes up to a maximum of 2,000 staff members, and then the prices change and take a downward step. So those larger businesses with more than 2,000 people, that actually falls away significantly after that. So it's not £10 per person per year after that. It drops off to just one. So there are cut-offs. So it's almost like a curve going up that flattens out for very large businesses. We want the large businesses because there's lots of people involved, and lots of people means lots of help, and lots of help means lots of return for the charities and for the businesses as well. So that's how we price. It's priced to be very, very affordable. Get 10 people in a business, it's £100 a year, or it's £10 a month as you wish. And that is probably one of the best investments in a marketing tool you'll ever make.
Hopefully that answers your question, Stuart. I just want to bring Shane in from Barnes Rotherham. I think Kurt wants to say a few words.
Yeah, I want to say a comment really, and then ask the question. But thank you for that 20 minutes, Philip, in terms of giving us an insight into CSR and how to harness it in businesses. But my comment really is, we are proud to say we're registered on the platform, the Barnes Rotherham Chamber, and we've actually used it. So every October we do the Business Awards, and we give about 5 charities a cash donation. We've used the platform to do exactly that. And what it does do is kind of register what we do with charities, so we can look back and recap on the work we have done over a couple of year period, for example, and kind of get a total amount that we've donated to charity, which is great for us as a business, not just as a Chamber of Commerce to support charity, but as a business to understand where we are. And it's helped us take our CSR strategy a bit more serious because we actually qualify the things we're doing. So I just wanted to make that comment really. But my question, Philip, would be for the single person businesses, and this platform is obviously geared up for any type of business, whether it's a charity to be registered on there or a business to be on there. But
Yep.
what would you say sole traders or single person businesses can do from a CSR point of view to help them? Because if you are a 15-person business, it's easier, one would think, that they've got a bit more of a CSR strategy in place, but a single person business is plate spinning a lot of the time. So is there any quick tips, if that's the right phrase, for sole traders to benefit from?
Well, sole traders, of course, they may be individuals, but they're always part of a supply chain in any event. So they've always got customers. And if a small business comes on and says, I have a choice, I can either join as an individual for free forever, or I can join for £10 a year for my business to become part of this, then it's a very simple equation. If you join your business and in your sales proposals, you mention that your business is an investor in community, then you may just find yourself talking to a customer who is also a member of Investors in Community in the future, and you can share the community credit stories, and it creates that link, that relationship. Excuse me. So my advice to small businesses and sole traders is don't think that CSR is for big people. It's actually for everybody. Everybody can espouse values, whether you're a single one-man band or whether you've got 10,000 people working for you. I would argue the fact the larger the business gets, the more difficult it is to demonstrate those values. So small businesses, one-man bands, single sole traders, join us as well, because any small act of giving allows you to have a good news story, and the good news story amplifies your personal brand, probably far more so than any other story you could think of writing about your business. So CSR is the gem, if you like, that you can hold up and say, this is what I'm very small, it's only me, but this is what I've done as well. And people think, wow, that's great, Phil, that you actually done something good as well. And you're on the same platform as us. Therefore, we have an affinity with you when you try to sell to us. And we're finding now that supply chains and that affinity in the supply chain is becoming quite important. We have one of our customers who has a supply chain of 300 suppliers. And they're now suggesting that all 300 join, because when they do that, they can see my company and all my suppliers have generated this number of credits and done this much good in the community, because our platform allows you to provide what we call a hidden list for your suppliers, and you can be in one list, and you can see, and they can see as well, the good work that's gone on within the supply chain. So my advice to any business of any size is get involved, because the getting involved bit has a return and it has a positive outlook for your business going forwards.
Perfect. Thanks, Bill. Thank you.
Phil, I don't know if you've seen Stuart's second question in the chat box. Just asking, just mentioned that he works with small charities in Liverpool City region, and was obviously disappointed when large businesses give large donations to large national charities, and he's asking how IIC can localise such efforts and I guess alleviate some of that as well.
Well, of course, a charity will have, by its profile definition, it'll have the nearest town, it'll have the work it does, it'll have the genre of giving, so whether it's animal, it's people, it's poverty related, whatever that relationship is, you'll define that when you set your profile up. So people are able to seek an individual specific charities and charity groups. So you can do a search on, for example, Liverpool, and find a number of charities in Liverpool that you could choose to support. Big charities, of course, have got the budgets, they've got the marketing to reach out and grab small with choice. You can give £1 away to one charity on the platform. No charges, no cost. So once you've got the money in your wallet, you can give it away in £1 chunks if you want. So the idea is, as a business, well, why don't you spread it a little bit? Why don't you create yourself several stories rather than just one story? And so we're hoping that this choice position, allowing a donor, allowing a business to actually say, yeah, we'll give some money to this large research charity, and we'll just push that out amongst some smaller charities. You find the gems, you find those stories, and you always find them because somewhere along the line you'll find a charity that does something you didn't know what they did, or they've done something amazing. And I've been fortunate enough to meet many charities that do some amazing things with children, with mental health, with poverty, and you think, wow, and so they're worth supporting. And there will be the little fishing hooks that says, I've supported you once, I'm going to come back again and see how you're doing. The impact statements come back. It says what amazing stuff you've been doing with such a small sum of money. Let's see if we can help you some more. And that in itself, the choice, the project being, focused in different areas, we believe will actually expand the range of giving, not just from the big brands, but actually to a broader range of smaller sized charities who are doing some incredible work, and which, if we didn't have them, would be a huge and sad loss.
Stuart, hopefully that answered your question. I know Phil, you did break up a little bit then, but I can put you in touch with Stuart if you didn't catch some of it. David has asked if you could post a link so we can look to join the platform. Says it falls in line with their core values. I think Jade's just popped the link in.
Thank you, Jade.
And Nigel's asked whether it would be possible to see the platform and how it works. I don't know whether that's possible now or whether that needs another webinar. Phil, how long it would take? Would you just encourage them to go and have a look? Is it quite self-explanatory if they visit the site?
It should be self-explanatory. If you scroll down the home page, you'll see a little how-to video. I call it my scribbly doodly because I used to scribble on a piece of paper to describe how all these different things worked, and everybody liked it so much I wrote it into one of those little videos that just how it all works. Have a look at that. And the next 24 hours, we're actually reskinning the front page. So if you give us about 24 hours, we'll have a new home page up there that is probably a little bit more navigable and a bit more explanatory about different areas of the business. But right now there is a video on the homepage that shows you how it all works. Want an online demonstration of the platform, I'm more than happy to set one up. One of my team or me will be happy to spend some 20 minutes, half an hour on a Zoom call with you and demonstrate all the functionality of the platform to anybody that's interested. That's an open invitation to anybody.
He's on it now, apparently. He's watching the video now. Okay, that's it for questions. Couple more minutes if anybody wants to post any more comments or final questions before we wrap up. I think I'd just probably like to say, echo what Shane said. It's a great platform. I'd just like to encourage any charities on the call to sign up. It's free. Obviously, you'd be mad not to join the platform. And obviously for businesses, it's obviously great. We've seen and heard some of the benefits of CSR and what it can do for your business. And I think it gives you a lot of choice. I think my final question would be is really, what about those companies, Phil, that think they've got CSR nailed? They've got a team that deals with it specifically in-house, or it's their HR team. They think they've just got it nailed. Why? Why come to you? Why join IIC?
Yeah, it's a good question. We've spoken to the very large companies actually, and the larger they get, the more sophisticated some of their measuring systems are. Most companies will look and measure retrospectively. So they respond to, for example, a sales tender that says, can you show us what your community credentials are? What are your CSR things? Show us what you did. And you scratch your head and you think, well, what did we do last summer and all that stuff? And they try and cobble together on individual supporting spreadsheets. So there's that type of company who believe that they've got it sussed by spreadsheet explanations. And there are more sophisticated companies that say, well, we've written an intranet and we measure all our stuff. And there's one thing missing from that situation, whether it be the retrospective cobbling together of spreadsheets or the more sophisticated systems that some companies do have. And the missing link is called verification. We only have your word by your inputted data as to what actually happened. And therefore, if you're going for something like a sales tender proposal where you have to prove what you've done in the future, but also where you have a CSR accreditation requirement, they require either an external audit to test your data, which costs money, or they say, no, you have to verify the data. Our platform verifies the data. And therefore, you have a very, very strong data set that you can rely on in the legal sense, not just a commercial sense, in a legal sense, to say, this is what we did, this is how we can prove it, how it was verified, and this is real. And that's going to become an ever more important part of CSR reporting going forwards as the government moves us towards reporting in our accounts of CSR. But more importantly, any of that is where your customers say, can you prove the sort of person you are, the sort of company you are? Can you prove your CSR? And if all you've got is your own spreadsheets, that's not evidence in itself. Imagine going to court and saying, I've got my evidence, I put it all together myself, so where I was on the night of the 14th. They're going to say, well, where's your alibi? Where's your proof? And it's the same thing. Can you verify the data you've got? Our platform does that for you in real time. So press a button, up to date, up to the minute results. It's there for you at all times. I think does that answer your question, Sam? I think
Yeah,
Ellen
yeah.
had a quick question as well.
Yeah, I've seen Ellen. Do you want to just unmute yourself and come in?
Yes, thank you. Morning, everybody. First of all, thanks very much, Phil. This is the second time recently I've heard you talk about this, and it's really comprehensive and you know, music to my ears as a chief exec of a disability charity. We work across Doncaster and Rotherham called Live Inclusive, and I just wanted to reinforce some of the things you've said. In a previous role I've had on a national level, I've worked with universities, working with graduates and students in social entrepreneurship. And I would just like to reinforce, you're quite right, there are graduates and students out there that are absolutely clear that they want more than just a job. They want something that gives so much more to, you know, back to the community. So there's a high demand there for graduates that have an interest in you know, working for companies that have that social responsibility. The other thing I'd say also is, you know, companies might want to consider if they're if they tender for public sector contracts, sometimes it's worth approaching local charities. It might be that, you know, a charity can work in partnership or collaborate on a tender that would actually meet a social clause in some, you know, in public sector contracts. So, you know, that's worth considering as well. And on a final note, because I know we're coming to the end, I'd just like to give a good example of Smith Brothers in Doncaster, large electrical company. I was trying to source PPE because we've been responding to COVID, providing emergency responses to people shielding with a team of volunteers, and they kindly donated, you know, about £300 worth of PPE to us. Off the back of that, we were tweeting, you know, what a great thing to do, and then they published our profile on their website, you know, and so a simple thing like that had a big impact. So, you know, I'm really a supporter of what you're wanting to do here, Phil. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ellen. Well, I think that's been positively received. How do people get in touch then, Phil?
Well, it's easy. The link has been posted in the chat room. If you want my personal email address, I'm happy to post it in the chat room as well. And obviously I can signpost you either within my company or I can talk to you myself. So if you have any questions whatsoever, I'll pop my email address in the system in a second. But I'm welcome to speak to anybody at all. I'm very, very happy to speak to businesses or charities and help you to engage, because it's actually this symbiotic relationship between businesses, individuals, charities that will create our society and make our world a better place. And it might sound a bit sort of cheesy, but it's true, isn't it? At the end of the day, we are all about people and people matter. And I think if we adopt that as our central stance, our values will start to bleed out into our commercial relationships in a very positive way. And espousing our values and doing business based on values has to be the right thing.
And I know as a chamber network, we will work hard to introduce businesses to charities across the region. I think that's probably it then, Phil. No more questions in the chat box. I'd just like to thank Phil for giving the presentation and introducing us to the platform Investors in Community. Thank you to everybody that's joined the call. I hope you found it an interesting, useful morning. Thanks to my colleagues at Barnsley, Rotherham and Doncaster Chamber for helping to organise, and look forward to seeing you all at our next event.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sam.
Thank you,
good one.
guys.